Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Multi-Million Dollar Brands podcast. I read about Kat Hantas, uh, a tequila brand, 21 Seeds, in Adweek, and I had to interview her. It was such an exciting story. I cannot wait for you to meet her. Thank you so much for being here, Kat.
I'm thrilled to be here. I love tequila and I love talking to other female founders and female entrepreneurs like yourself. So I'm thrilled.
So cool. So you're the co-founder of 21 Seeds. Who's the other founder with you?
Good question. Good question. So actually 21 Seeds is two sisters, one girlfriend. That's what the two and the one, it's actually 2-1, not even 21. So I started the company with my sister and my girlfriend, Sarika. So we're three female founders. And we actually have a female-owned distillery in Mexico and predominantly female staffed as well that make it for us down in the town of Tequila, which there is an actual town of tequila. Most people don't know that. There's an area of Jalisco where all tequila comes from, and then there's an actual town of tequila, and that is where our distillery is.
Amazing. Okay, I want to dig into that. But really, let's just get started. What was your inspiration for starting this brand?
Totally. So I used to be a wine drinker. I would drink white wine and rosé were my two go-tos. And I would finish my night off. Like every night I'd finish off with a glass of wine or two, usually one while I was making dinner and one while I was eating dinner. So I did that for, that's what I was. I was a wine drinker. And I started to sort of not feel great. I'd had my second child, but it had been, plenty of time have gone by after having my second child where, any sort of hormones or anything like that had gotten out of my system. And yet I was starting to feel kind of crappy, best way to put it. And went to my doctor and I said, hey, listen, what's going on here? And he looked at what I was eating and drinking, he tested everything else, looked at then what I was eating and drinking. And he says, there's the culprit. And he was talking about the wine. And he said,
Are you like, no, you cannot take my wine away. Don't do it.
You don't even know the half of it. When he was sitting there telling me this, I was thinking to myself, how can it be the wine? And I so look forward to enjoying that glass of wine at the end of my night. And he said, as you get older, sort of defined as after 30, and in some cases even before that, but basically he's like, listen, it gets harder to metabolize fermented spirits in general. So that's wine, champagne, beer, sake. And it's harder to metabolize those, and it's easier on your body to metabolize a distilled spirit. And what he recommended that I switch to was Blanco tequila. And when he said that to me, I was just sort of, I thought he's got to be wrong. Like you said, like I was wishing he was wrong. And then B, I just was sort of, what am I going to do? Like Blanco tequila, it reminded me of college. Like I was not a big tequila drinker. I would have the occasional margarita, but I was not running to sip tequila. Again, this was like 9 years ago on a daily basis. So
yeah, I mean, that's a pretty cool doctor though.
Oh yeah. At least I didn't have to get rid of him, right?
At least it wasn't like,
how do you send me home with, need to quit drinking altogether.
You need to get drinking and you're like, have you met motherhood?
Yeah, no, exactly. I really looked forward to that cocktail at the end of the night. So anyway, of course I went home, I stopped drinking wine, and within 3 days I felt like 100% better. Any symptom that I was experiencing before, it just went away. So at that point I thought, all right. Then I was sort of looking at this Blanco, like, what am I going to do to this Blanco tequila to make it just delicious and smell good and not smell like college and, be something I look forward to at the end of the day. And so I like to cook, and I just started infusing it. And by infusing it, it completely changed the entire spirit. And I am not a fan, sort of a quote unquote infused with flavored spirits. Like flavored spirits in general, I tend to feel are very sugary. They kind of have this weird aftertaste, like you're sucking on a nickel, and they kind of smell like Jolly Ranchers to me.
Right.
And so that wasn't,
like
when
college, like you said, like those weird blue drinks that people would bring you, and
you're just like, how do you even, like, how do you make that? I now know how to make a blue drink. Use butterfly tea if you want to do it all naturally, but that's a different conversation. So
I saw that on your Instagram. It looked beautiful.
It's really such a neat trick. Butterfly tea, folks. I just learned about it in this last year and I'm obsessed with it. But anyway, I So I infused it, and that totally changed it. And it, it just gave it a hint of flavor, and it smelled delicious and great, like the things I was infusing it with. And it didn't smell like tequila anymore. It was like not my college tequila anymore. And I just did that for years and years, 8 years
Oh
without
my
even
gosh.
thinking, yeah, about making it a business, like turning it into a business. And what I noticed was over the course of those 8 years, I noticed that a lot of my girlfriends were switching to tequila, very specifically from champagne and wine over to tequila. And they were either asking me for bottles of infused tequila, which I would gladly make for them. They'd tried them at my house, or I'd given it to them as a gift. So they either asked me for infused tequila that I was making, or if we were out, I noticed that they would order a Blanco tequila and squeeze a bunch of lime juice into it, again, to make it not taste like tequila. And I
Right.
thought, wow, there seems to be a whole lot of people who are sort of looking to drink cleaner and sort of better for you. And whether they were leaving wine and beer and champagne for the reasons that I was, or just simply because they wanted to drink lower carb and less sugar, they were switching over to tequila, and they were trying to sort of almost stomach it in a way, like just drink it and have it be smoother and more delicious and squeezing the lime juice into it. So I thought, maybe there's a market here, like maybe something's missing. And
Yes, I love this so much. And what I love about what you're saying is that you market tested it without even realizing it. You
exactly,
just saw the need, you were addressing the need. And it makes me wonder how many people out there who are listening are sitting on their next multi-million dollar idea and they're just
exactly.
being of service to the people that they care about within their relationships. I think women are particularly good at that. They're good at being intuitive about what people need and creating it from their own imagination and from their own intuition without having to be overly strategic about it or without having a business plan
Totally.
first.
You're absolutely right. And I joke that, I don't know that this product, if this were sort of trying to be, thought up, if 21 Seeds were sort of, trying to get created out of some sort of a test group, a focus
Yes.
group, or, like some sort of a lab at, Bacardi or something like that. I don't know that it would have ever come out this way, because for me, even the name 21 Seeds, it's not a typical tequila name,
Right.
but it's what spoke to us. And and we wanted to, the seeds part for us was like, well, it's not regular tequila, it's infused tequila. And we don't have a Blanco, Reposado, Añejo, like a traditional type of tequila. We only have these 3 infused Blancos. And we were really just trying to name it for the things, everything that goes in it is all natural and grows from a seed. And that's the seeds. And really just put a name on a product that we were creating for ourselves. Like, this was for us, by us, truly. I was looking for it to solve every one of my pain points. And I say that because, not just how it tastes and how easy, it is to use it, but also the versatility of it. Because at one point, a couple of friends were saying to me, why don't you make this a ready to drink? Just make it a cocktail, make it done, and that way you can just buy and it's done. And I thought, I don't want it to be a cocktail. I'd rather have an infused tequila that's on the way to being a finished cocktail, because then it still allows me to have that flexibility, which is, as we're women, we entertain, oftentimes we're in charge of the entertainment in the household, whether, we're for ourselves or we have spouses. And part of that is, what are we going to serve, both non-alc and alcoholic, right? At
Right.
a dinner, at an event. And with an infused tequila, I could just take care of so many more people than if it's a ready to drink. If somebody doesn't like exactly what's in that ready to drink, then you have to alter it. You have to have other things available for them. But what I just do is I'll put out a seed and soda bar, and I'll just put out the infused tequilas, put out some club sodas and some garnishes, fresh garnishes, a bunch of them, like a charcuterie board full of garnishes, and let people make their own drinks. And so I found it to be incredibly easy to entertain. And plus, I could keep this bottle of infused tequila in the fridge, pull it out very easily. As you said, I'm a mom of 2. And at the end of the night, I didn't want to have to fuss with making a complicated cocktail,
Yes.
every night. I just wanted to be able to make a quick and easy spritz, but that was really delicious and had a little, hint of flavor in it, some little nuance to it that made it something I really looked forward to, as opposed to just, having a drink.
Well,
So
the way that you're talking, I'm guessing that you're very popular in your friend circles because I would definitely want to sign up for everything that you're talking about. It sounds so fun. And I know you have a film background. And in a
yes.
lot of ways, what I hear you saying is this story, this idea of story is that you start with the foundation of a story and then you build on that story and that it can go in a variety of different directions. And so, how do you feel like your film background has actually prepared you for the success that you've seen with 21 Seeds?
Yeah. So immensely so, because I think really with any brand, right, what really sets a commodity apart from being a brand, right, is the story. That's the part that allows for the real connection to happen, the sort of meaningful, deeper connection, and ties someone to a brand just beyond what it is. It's the why. Why does it exist? Not what is it that it exists, but like, why does it exist? And that's the thing that we're connecting to emotionally, on a brand. And I think that's where, we've really been able to sort of set ourselves apart in the space, right? I think traditionally, tequila in particular has been spirits in general are very male dominated, and
Yes.
tequila even more so, very, very male dominated industry. And, and our consumer, the 21 Seeds consumer, is 80% female. We know who our consumer is. We have the data, and it's 80% a female consumer. And I think so much of that is, we've really addressed the way that she wants to be drinking, right? And I think oftentimes in spirits, the big guys sort of think it's got to be a diet drink or it's got to be sweet for girls to
Right.
like it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And and
Yes.
and it's so not just that. We're so much more complex than that. Things like, I've always wanted to have a spirit that I could have on my bar cart that I could just pour right into a rocks glass. And I'm not a whiskey drinker. It's too harsh. Like, just because we don't want something harsh doesn't mean we want it sweet. We want it smooth. There's another
Right.
word, and it's called
Right.
smooth.
Yeah, you can't just take the product, slap pink on it, and say, okay, now it's for women. Like,
Exactly,
and I think
exactly.
that's what a lot of times brands try to do, and it's where they make a huge mistake when they create a product specifically for women. So I love what you're saying about
Exactly.
this.
Yeah, I think oftentimes it's they're backing into that. And for us, this product exists because of, this need that I had, and I was really just trying to solve this problem for myself, and I needed it to solve all of my problems. And so I sort of thought through all of that, before we even again decided to make it into a business.
Yeah,
And
you
then,
can't.
that's when I partnered up with my sister and my girlfriend. And believe me, if you're thinking about starting a business out there, get some great partners. Like, I can't say enough about great partners,
Yeah,
because it's hard to do it on your own for sure. And I have huge respect for those who have been able to do it on their own.
you just can't manufacture that type of authenticity. The relationships that you have with your sister and your friend, and then being able to also create this brand that addresses women. And not only do you serve women, but your distillery is consist of all women. How did
Mhm.
you even like did you go down to Mexico and just sort of like tried to find a bunch of women
Yeah.
that knew how to make tequila? Like
So
how did you
good
find that?
question. Yeah, it's a good question. So yeah, so we actually, so part of this is a bit of luck, right? We did get lucky in that regard. But I also believe that luck is just, you know, being able to see a rare opportunity that presents itself and acting on it. I think that's sort of a bit of what luck is. And so for us, we chose our distillery partner first and foremost based on the quality of the product. Like, we wanted the absolute smoothest Blanco tequila that we could possibly find, down in Mexico. And so we had lined it, we had our number one choice. Our distillery was our number one choice, but we had a couple others that we had to go visit as well, just in case, who knows, they didn't have the capacity or we couldn't strike a deal with them or whatever the case was. So we went down there and we visited, 3 distilleries on this trip. And theirs was the last one that we went to. And when we walked in, it was a woman who greeted us. And that was different than the other 2 distilleries. As we started walking around the distillery, we noticed pretty much everywhere we were looking. And I will correct you, it's not 100%, run by women, and meaning like there are men that work at this distillery as well, but she just staffs the predominantly women. to the extent that she can put as many women in there as she can. I think that's her goal. And there are a ton of women there.
It's a women's world and the men work there.
That's right. Isn't it a woman's world anyway? So anyways, so we noticed that there were so many women, again, something that we hadn't seen in the prior two distilleries. And so finally we asked this woman who was giving us the tour, the plant manager, we said, what's going on? We're noticing there's so many women here. This is so incredible. And then that's when we found out that the owner was a woman, and that it was really important to her, to encourage women to work at distilleries, not traditionally done. And, she actually does their hours so that they coincide with their children's school, because they can't afford extra childcare after the kids get out of school. So they start earlier and get off earlier so they can still pick up their kids from school. So all of this was like incredible for us, because we were already choosing it based on its, on the merits of the product. But beyond that, when it so fell into line with everything we were about, we couldn't be more thrilled. And she's been an incredible partner for us through all of this, because the other part of it is that we're actually infusing, and no other distillery, including this one, had the ability to infuse when we first got down there. So we really needed her to take that leap of faith and, join us on this journey to create, an all natural, actually infused tequila. And so that's been it was a big challenge. She met the challenge. She surpassed our expectations. I mean, the kindest, most amazing, hardworking, pride in workmanship and craftsmanship folks that I've ever come across are our partners down there. They're amazing.
So good. So she gets it. She understands what it is that you want. She just gets it.
She not only gets it, she gets it done.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you think the key is to infiltrating a space that has predominantly men in the past? Is there, and we've talked a lot about just having an intuition with what women want and need, but beyond that, like the mechanics of it, did you find that difficult?
It definitely was. It was challenging because, we sell to a distributor, the distributor sells to the retailer, and then the retailer sells to the consumer. That's becoming more and more streamlined now, in that we can talk to our consumer through this digital universe, right? That's where we kind of come from. So from the onset, when you meet with these distributors, what they'll say to you is, look, this is how you build a brand in liquor. You build it in the on-premise, which is the restaurants and the bars, and then you sell it in the off-premise, which is the retail. So the idea is that, somebody walks into a bar, they have an amazing cocktail that's just spectacular, or they have a really interesting conversation with the bartender, who introduces them to a brand, and they fall so deeply in love with it, or have such an incredible experience with it in that moment, that they are inspired to then go home and buy a bottle of it and have it for their home bar, right? So that's traditionally how it's done. And for us, we would sit on the other side of the table and listen to this and sort of think to ourselves, like shaking our heads, that's not how girls discover brands right now. That's not where we go. We go somewhere else to do that. First of all, we're not having these really extensive, long conversations with bartenders about the history of agave. We just are like, can you make that a little less sweet? That, if anything, if they can even hear it, because this again was pre-COVID, and when bars were loud, and you just wanted to get your drink and get with your girlfriends for your girls' night or your date night, or you're celebrating a work, it's after hours with your coworkers. Like, you want to get to the socializing of it. That's what girls want. We want to we're social creatures. Like, very rarely do we sit and spend too much time with a bartender. And in terms of drinks, I feel like drinks in bars are so complicated these days. There's so many, again, pre-COVID, there were so many ingredients in them that I wouldn't even be able to specify or pull out one ingredient in the list of 10 that was the reason why that cocktail was so delicious. So that thinking just made no sense to me and to Nicole and Sarika. We were just like, none of this stuff is making sense. What does make sense is that I listen to my girlfriends and other friends of mine, influencers in my micro influence, like really nano influencers, my immediate sphere of friends. if they recommend something, I'm bound to probably check it out. I go on sites like Refinery 29 or Bustle or Pure Wow or Pop Sugar, and I look there for discovery, right? Like those are the places that I'm looking to discover a brand. Or I might be at, a Veronica Beard store opening, say, or and they're serving a cocktail there, and I'm having so much fun at that I might, be like, oh, that's fun. That's a fun experience, and think that's a very specific cocktail that I kind of know what it is. So those are the sort of like places that, we're going to discover brands. And so what we would say this to these guys, and most of them were guys, and they would just kind of look at us like, that's never going to work, And so it was a little scary, right? Because we had to say, well, to your point, we're just going to go with our gut here, and we think it's going to work. And this is where we're going to go and put our focus and our energy. And, as a small startup, you don't have endless amounts of energy and focus and dollars, and you have to make choices. So we would rather spend and do whatever we were going to do in this outer premise, I call it, than in the on premise, which is the bars and the restaurants.
So it's outer premise, like connecting with people on social, being able to create this brand that people fall in love with and catches their attention. And it's like, oh my gosh, what's that? That's interesting.
That's right.
New. Yeah.
That's exactly it. And it was totally antithetical to how they normally build brands in the spirits industry. So it's been very cutting edge. And so, I think oftentimes when you look to disrupt an industry, and a lot of folks say that we're a brand disruptor, like we're disrupting this industry of spirits, you look at the distribution model. Usually that's the place to look, right, when you're going to disrupt an industry. And for us, we were looking at the distribution, but we were looking at, for booze, there's distribution in terms of like getting it from a warehouse to, stores, and buying through a store versus buying, say, direct to consumer, right? But then there's also that first part of it, which is that brand awareness building part of the distribution pathway. And that was where we disrupted, right? It was in this first part, which is the build it in the on-premise, sell it in the off-premise. We took that build it in the on-premise piece and we disrupted it and said, no, we're not going to build it in the on-premise. We're going to build it in the outer premise. And that was the big thing. And then of course, COVID happened. So everything had to shift to online, right? Like everything started moving into online. And we just happened to be, again, we got a little lucky. We did get a little lucky. Like, I mean, there's so much that's horrible about what has happened and transpired. But, in the spirits industry, or especially for us, we did get a little lucky because we were already online. And when everyone was scrambling to get over to online, we were already there talking to our customer, talking to her like nonstop, weekly, daily.
So good. And so without naming names, has anybody come back to you and said, maybe our model could have been improved upon in retrospect?
I don't think that anyone's really come back to us. I don't think that that's in their nature, but I will say that we've gotten a ton of recognition. We've been on panels, even, I spoke on a WSWA, which is the Wine and Spirits of America. Like it's the biggest trade organization for the wine and spirits industry. And they were very interested in how we were in our approach. And so invited me to speak there. Brand Week invited us to participate and interviewed us. I think people are very interested in the approach, and that's why we've been getting the press that we've been getting. They're wondering like how we're doing it, how we're going about it. So it's been really cool. At the end of the day, we just want to be able to get 21 Seeds in the hands of our girl. For anyone else out there that's like looking for an alternative to, wine, beer, and champagne, this is a great way to go.
So such an inspiring story. And I'm going to let everybody know how they can actually get their hands on this amazing infused tequila, which you actually sent to my house. And I'm so appreciative. When I saw the box appear, I was like, what? And I posted on social media and I became very popular very fast. So for anybody who wants to have a socially distanced gathering in their home, I highly recommend it. But just as a fun, like little, to wrap up a bunch of questions, what's your favorite book?
So my favorite book right now is Skin. It's all about like going deep into, that's the one I'm reading now. It's like the history of our skin and like really truly what a huge organism it is, right? And how important it is and like how you feed it from the inside. So yeah, I like scientific stuff like that, especially when it's sort of like just a little more accessible.
Right. Yeah. What's your biggest takeaway from that so far?
Well, the importance of it, the fact that it's a living, breathing, massive thing, it's quite complicated. That's the biggest takeaway. I mean, I'm not that far into it, to be honest with you, because it's been so crazy at work right now with everything that's going on. We just signed a big national deal with Southern Wine and Spirits. So we're expanding to so many states. So I haven't been able to spend as much time truthfully reading as I'd love. But yes, I'm eager to dive into it.
Very cool. And what's your favorite vacation spot?
Cabo. I love
Nice.
Cabo.
Yes.
I love Mexico in general. There's so many great spots in Mexico, but Cabo, because it's also my family's favorite. My son's a surfer, so it works for all of us.
So good. And then where can people find you personally and also get their hands on a bottle of 21 Seeds?
Yes. So the best place to start is 21seeds.com. We have a Find Us tab. Hello at 21 Seeds gets stuff to me. But we have a Find Us tab. So if you type in your zip code, we will show you, it'll populate all the places where 21 Seeds is sold near you. But we're in a lot of chains, like in California, we're in Bevmo and Total Wine and in Target, and we're expanding. We're going to be in Walmart next year. We just found out, which we're really excited about.
That's so
But yeah, we're
exciting.
getting into a bunch of chains and a lot of the local liquor stores as well. So I think the best place to start though is 21seeds.com for all things, including great cocktail recipes, folks.
Yes.
Yes, very easy to make cocktail recipes. We're all stuck at home these days and looking for fun and interesting ways to entertain ourselves. And I think an easy new cocktail is a great way to go.
I went with the one that had grapefruit juice in it because I knew that nobody would touch that in my fridge except for
Okay,
me. And I was
good.
so happy.
Yeah, Paloma, a Paloma. I love
Exactly.
it.
The
I love
Paloma. So, well, thank you so much for being here. It was great to hear your story. So inspiring. I know many, many people are not only going to fall in love with your story, but fall in love with your brand. So, thanks again for being here. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I love talking tequila with you. And I hope all the construction at your house is going okay.
It's going well. We were removing an indoor pool and we were tempted to make it a ball pit, but we're going to just continue to remove the indoor pool. Thank you for asking.
Awesome.
Ball pit and tequila. Actually, that sounds like a really fun evening. Maybe I should be rethinking this, but I think it just got closed up. So thank you again for being here. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care.